The other day, I was working on a TikTok video looking at some PC parts, and I came across the 8400F for only $130 on Amazon, and it got me thinking, one, why don't I ever see this CPU in builds? And two, why don't I ever see the CPU in builds? It's the cheapest AM5 chip you can get from Amazon. Yes, I am fully aware that the 7500F exists, but you have to buy that from AliExpress to get it for the same price that I got this 8400F for. So I figured I'd just pick it up and give it a try because I haven't seen very many videos using the CPU, and a lot of people don't feel comfortable buying from AliExpress, and some of the potential issues that might come along with buying from AliExpress sometimes outweighs the benefits. So like we said, we're going to be using the 8400F for this build, and there's two things of note that I want to point out. The first thing being that this CPU can technically only use 8 of the PCI 4.0 lanes for the graphics card, and it only has 16 megabytes of L3 cache, which is going to affect the gaming performance, especially compared to the 7500F, which has 32 megs of L3 cache. For the motherboard, I went with just the cheapest A620M motherboard that I could find on Amazon. It was like 70 bucks. It's going to work for this. It's not the most spectacular motherboard in the world. The IO is a bit lacking, and some of the cooling on the VRM just looks rather not that great, but we'll make it work. And technically, you can upgrade the CPU on this motherboard to something better down the line if you were to buy the CPU and motherboard combo. For the graphics card, I've actually got a 4060 Ti that I picked up from Facebook Marketplace for only 290 bucks, which I thought was a pretty good deal, especially when you look at them used on eBay. For the RAM, I got a 16 gigabyte kit from Kingston at 6,000 mega transfers a second, and the reason why I got a little bit better RAM for this build is because Ryzen processors really like faster RAM, and I wanted to give the 8400F the best chance possible to perform at its best, so I paired it up with a little better RAM than I typically would for a PC build of this value, but I'm just curious to see how the 8400F performs, and I wanted to give it the best possible chance. For the memory, I picked up this 1 terabyte M.2 drive from Silicon Power. You know, it's going to do the job. It's not the best storage in the world. It's cheap, 1 terabyte, and it's going to serve its purpose pretty well for this build. For the power supply, I picked up the Apevia Prestige power supply. It's gold rated, it's affordable, it's not modular, unfortunately, but once again, for a budget build, I think it's a good option, and it's going to work really well in the case we got, which is going to be the GameDeus Talos E3. Once again, a very budget-friendly option, and what I really like about this case is that it comes with 3 ARGB fans, which is going to save you some money, and it's just really cool that it comes with those. Whenever you're building budget builds, every dollar saved goes a long way. So for like 55 bucks, I absolutely love this case, and I can't wait to build in it. Now that we've gone over all the parts and I've done quite a bit of yapping, I'm going to go ahead and put this build together, and once it's together, I'm going to benchmark it just to see how the 8400F performs, and I'm going to also do some CPU specific benchmarks just to see some performance numbers from the CPU by itself. So the build is finally complete, as you can see here, and I cannot lie, I am way more satisfied with the performance, especially from the CPU, than I was expecting to be. The main benchmark that I used to test the CPU was Cinebench, and I found some pretty crazy results. The first thing I saw was that the multi-core performance of the CPU actually beats out the i9 9900K, and the single core even beats out the i9 11900K, which I thought was crazy. I went into this build not having that high of expectations for the CPU, and whenever you consider it only has 65 watts of TDP, the score is really good. I mean, this chip has blown me away. I also ran a time spy benchmark, and I was able to get just a little bit over 12,000, which once again, great performance for this PC. Overall, I've been absolutely blown away by the performance of it, and the benchmarks in games back that claim up quite a bit. The first game that I benchmarked was GTA 5, ultra settings, everything cranked all the way up, and in 1080p ultra, I was able to get 168 FPS, and in 1440p, I was able to get 148 FPS average. Now, I will say the 1% lows in this were really bad. I would occasionally just get like a really bad stutter. I don't know if it was the drivers from my GPU, the game itself, the install of the game, I'm not sure. The average FPS was really good and overall the playability was great, but for whatever reason, I was getting some really bad stutters occasionally. Next up was Marvel Rivals, a game that I know is really popular right now, so I wanted to give it a try. At 1440p with DLSS set to performance, I was able to get 71 FPS. Bumping that resolution down to 1080p, ultra settings still, DLSS set to performance, I was able to get an average of 91 FPS, which was a little bit better, and if you have a higher refresh rate monitor, you're probably going to be better off actually lowering some of the quality settings so you can take advantage of the full refresh rate. I also gave Halo Infinite a shot, and at 1080p ultra settings, I was able to average 138 FPS, and if I bumped the resolution up to 1440p ultra, I was then only able to average 96 FPS. To round up the benchmarks, I tested Fortnite, a game that I personally play a decent bit, and I know it's super popular, so you kind of almost have to include it in any benchmark you're going to be doing. At 1080p ultra settings, DLSS set to performance, I was able to average 128 FPS, and whenever I increased the resolution to 1440p, I was able to get 113 FPS average. So overall, the gaming performance has been spectacular, and this is absolutely a 1440p capable machine, and I really have to give a shout out to the Ryzen 8400f, and I think it needs to be considered in more builds. While doing my testing, I didn't see the CPU struggle at all, and I was kind of concerned that it might bottleneck the 4060 Ti, and I was absolutely wrong. This thing did not get over 70 degrees Celsius at all while gaming with the stock AMD Wraith cooler. I also did not see it get over 60% utilization while gaming, which once again backs up the claim that this CPU absolutely did not bottleneck the 4060 Ti. Since I bought mine, these are actually like $150 on Amazon, but honestly, even if you can't get it for 130 bucks, if you want the cheapest possible AM5 CPU that you can buy from Amazon and not AliExpress, I think the 8400F is absolutely one you need to be considering because my experience so far has been really solid. I do want to make a quick note though, I bought the faster RAM in this scenario because I got a good deal on it and I wanted to give the CPU the best chance possible. I was not able to get that RAM to run at the clocked 6,000 mega transfers a second. No matter what I did, different expo profiles, different motherboard settings after reading Reddit, I could not get this thing to boot. So all of this testing was done with the RAM at 4800 megahertz. That could be a limitation of the motherboard. It could be a limitation of the CPU. Could be a combination of both. There's really a lot of factors that could go into it, but just keep that in mind. If you buy this, you may not have the best experience trying to get your RAM to run at advertised speeds. I personally don't have a problem buying from AliExpress, so something like the 8400F isn't typically something I would purchase, but I wanted to do this build just to see how it performs for people that don't want to buy from AliExpress. This is the cheapest AM5 CPU you can get, and after my testing and after building with it, I think I actually would definitely recommend it. So if you're interested in picking it up, all of the links will be down below, as well as every other link for every product used in this build. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Leave me a like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Stay techie.